In this lesson, we are going to do an editing practice on our adjective clause. So, quick recap. An adjective clause starts with something called relative pronouns, like who, whom, whose, which, that, or relative adverbs like when, where, and why. And remember, for when and where, we can also replace them with preposition plus which. So in the following essay, there are some errors regarding adjective clauses, and we should make 14 changes. So we have to look for the following kinds of errors. So the first kind is the incorrect use of relative pronoun. For example, I telephoned the student who his wallet. Well, since we're using possessive adjective, we have to use whose wallet. WHOSE. So again, a quick reminder, WHO apostrophe S, that is contraction, not possessive, that is who is or who has. So the second type of error is disagreement of verb and antecedent. So what does that mean? Whenever you see a relative pronoun, how do you know whether this relative pronoun is singular or plural? Look for the antecedent, which is the noun before. And in this case, of course, people is plural. So who is a plural pronoun? And that means your verb inside the adjective clause has to be plural as well. Okay, and the third type of error is repetition of nouns or pronouns. So again, we see our relative pronoun here. My friend whom I loaned my car to him. Now that is incorrect. Why? Because we know that whom is already our object. I loaned my car to my friend. And you might be wondering, so my car is already an object, then what is the whom? What is the my friend? Remember, we have something called direct object, which is the thing that receives the action. So the car is the thing that is being loaned, whereas the person who is indirectly affected, that is the indirect object, right? But either way, since you already have the whom, you cannot use him again. And keep in mind that this is the less formal way of forming your adjective clause because our relative pronoun is functioning as object of the preposition. So in academic writing, you should actually move your preposition to the beginning as well. My friend to whom I loaned my car returned it with several dents. And of course, the last kind is punctuation because we have two types of adjective clause, essential or restrictive. That means you have no commas, and non-essential or non-restrictive, meaning that you need two inserter commas if you place your adjective clause in the middle of the sentence. And of course, if you put it at the end of the sentence, you need one single tag comma. So in this case, we see electronic pagers, which always seem to beep at inappropriate times. So remember, if you're taking the SAT, which is always non-essential, so comma, comma here. All right. And after you've identified the location for your comma, make sure you try and cross it out and reread the sentence to see if it still makes sense. A lot of students actually, kind of overestimate the length of the adjective clause. They end up with incomplete sentence. But electronic pagers is our subject, should be is our verb, and that is our independent clause. All right, so we are going to start with this El Nino passage. El Nino in Spanish, all right? So scientists have been studying an ocean event. Right away, I see a mistake. Why is that? When you're modifying ocean event, which is a thing, can you use who? No, you can't. That's for people. So in this case, I have two options. I would either use which for non-essential or that for essential. But ocean event is a very general word, so I want to use that. That is the cause of drastic changes in weather around the world. All right, so I'm going to label the number. This is our first mistake. This event is an increase in the temperature of the Pacific Ocean that appear around Christmas. So again, I see this, right? Our relative pronoun. But what is this relative pronoun referring to? I need to find the antecedent. Remember, usually the relative pronoun refers to the noun before, but there are exceptions. When is that exception? It is when your antecedent is followed already by essential adjective clause, because in this case, we can see, sorry, not essential adjective clause, essential prepositional phrase. We can see that in the temperature of the Pacific Ocean, that is modifying increase, right? So our that actually refers to the increase in temperature. And increase is singular, so that means our that relative pronoun is singular as well, which is why I need to add an S that appears. All right, and that is our mistake number 2. Hence means therefore, so the Peruvian fishermen, I see relative pronoun again, whom first noticed it, named it El Nino. Now, what is wrong with this? Well, we're talking about fishermen first noticed the change in temperature. So it is the subject, and we have to use the subjective case. So instead of whom, we have to use who. All right, so they named it this increase in temperature El Nino, a name that means, well, here we have another relative pronoun. That means the Christ child in Spanish, but this one is correct, right? Because that refers to name, which is okay because it's a thing, and that is singular, so means with an S, that is correct as well. So moving on to sentence number 4. So far we have identified 3 mistakes. The causes of this rise in ocean temperature are unknown. So this is not, this has nothing to do with adjective clause, but just a quick reminder. Your subject is causes. Why is the verb plural? Make sure you cross out your intervening expression, right, of this rise in ocean temperatures. So you have a plural subject, but its effects are obvious and devastating. One of El Nino's far-reaching effects is that it threatens Peru's vital anchovy harvest. So keep in mind that this is not a relative pronoun. So what is this thing? This is actually our noun clause functioning as a predicate noun, right? This is the same sentence structure as I am a teacher. Or you can say that the earth is round or that the earth is elliptical is a fact, all right? But we do have a relative pronoun afterwards, the which could mean higher prices for food. So now, what is the which referring to? We are talking about the anchovy harvest, right? So far there is nothing wrong with this, okay? The warm water of El Nino keeps the nutrient-rich cold water, I have another relative pronoun, which provides anchovies with food down at the bottom of the ocean. Well, since we're referring to nutrient-rich cold water, not just any water, right? This is very specific. So I have to use non-essential or non-restrictive adjective clause, but in that case, I would need to add a comma here. Okay. And anchovies are the primary source of fish meal, which is the main ingredient in livestock and chicken feed. So this is the same thing, right? We're talking about anchovies. So I don't like the way they organize this sentence because as you can see here, what is the main ingredient in livestock and chicken feed? It should be talking about anchovies. So I would actually probably move the whole adjective clause to directly after anchovies. All right. And instead of using a period, I'm going to change that to a comma here. Okay. And then since which refers to anchovies, I'm going to use are. All right. But the instruction didn't tell us to change the misplaced modifier. I just think that would make the sentence a lot clearer. Okay, so far I think we have 3, 4, 5, kind of 6. This is 5 and 6. So 6 mistakes. All right, but I will leave the rest to you for practice. And that is it for this session.